Let's talk anxiety triggers. If you are really committed to reducing or tackling, beating your anxiety, it is fundamental that you understand what your anxiety triggers are. So a trigger is completely unique to you. Triggers make people's anxiety start, or it makes someone's anxiety escalate to a higher level. So a person can be a trigger for you, a location can be a trigger, a specific event that happened either in the past or that you know is about to happen. And it can also be an experience, something that is out in the world that when you even think about it, not necessarily even be in it, but when you think about it, that can make your anxiety start or can make it get higher. So another nuance to anxiety triggers is that there can be a different level of anxiety that will occur when you have the trigger. So a trigger might make your anxiety just go up a little teeny bit. So let's say there's a rating scale of 1 to 10, and that trigger occurs in your life. It may make your anxiety go up just 1 or 2 notches, like 1 or 2 out of that scale of 1 to 10. Whereas you may have a different trigger that is really, really big. So when that trigger occurs for you, it's like a level 9 or a 10. It's really big, right? So it's really tricky when we're talking about those low level, smaller triggers, because if they are making your anxiety go up only 1 or 2 levels, you may not necessarily notice it at the time. So let's say there's a specific person at work, and whenever you are in a meeting with that person, your anxiety goes up just a little teeny bit, not quite enough to notice, but your anxiety has increased. Then let's say you go through the workday and there is another trigger that happens. And again, it's pretty small. It's just a 1 or a 2. Then that trigger has stacked on top of the previous one. And if you have another trigger that again is very low level, that one might compound it even more. So pretty soon you're feeling incredibly anxious, but you may not even actually know why. And it's because those low level triggers have stacked one on top of the other. So here is a tool that you can use to help you start to understand and notice your own anxiety triggers. It does take a bit of work, and that is a triggers journal. So basically throughout the day, you're going to be writing down any time that you feel that you are anxious. When you feel anxious, you're going to think back to, let's say, the past hour. Is there anything within the past hour that you noticed that made your anxiety increase? If so, you write it down. Then you also go back and you look back, let's say 2 or 3 hours, and you think back, was there anything that made my anxiety noticeable within the past few hours? And if so, you write those things down. You do this for an entire day, because what's going to happen is you're going to start to notice patterns and themes emerge. Because like I said, if you have those small triggers, you may not notice that you feel anxious until the very end of the day, and you won't have any idea why. Sometimes you will feel great one day and you'll feel really, really anxious the next. And it's actually the things that happened in the previous day that compounded enough to make you notice it the next day. So you do need to do a bit of detective work to be able to understand what your triggers are. You're going to know what those big ones are. The 9 or the 10 on the rating scale, that's obvious to you. It's the ones that are the level 1, 2, or 3 that you're really not going to notice. But for you to get your anxiety to a manageable level, or hopefully eventually completely eliminate it, you have to do the detective work of understanding your anxiety triggers, particularly those little sneaky ones. So if you want other resources for anxiety, you can definitely find those on my website, and that is listed in the description below.